The information and discussions shared on The Love Show are from personal accounts and experiences. Listener discretion is advised. This episode contains explicit language and frank discussions of adult themes or sexual content that may not be suitable for all audiences. Any communications, considerations, or recommendations are not a substitute for medical, psychological, or licensed professional help in wellness or recovery. Please seek a qualified practitioner regarding specific needs or concerns. We thank you and hope you enjoy the show.
Welcome to The Love Show, an exploration of love, romance, relationships, and sacred sexuality. This is your invitation to dive deeper into your innermost self and strengthen the bonds of love and intimacy. Jennifer Rose is an international psychic medium, transformational guide, channel, writer, and healer. With the help of fellow trailblazers, Jennifer's mission is to combine timeless wisdom and modern spiritual awareness to transform and evolve humanity, all while encompassing healthy transformative love, epic beauty, and divine connection. Now here is your host, Jennifer Rose.
Hello, hello. Good evening. Happy Monday, everybody. I'm Jennifer Rose. This is The Love Show, and we are on the Sacred Spiral Network. I hope you all are doing well and had a beautiful weekend. I'm very excited for this episode 3 of The Love Show. Beautiful love, we've got to share here for you today. I have some very special guests coming on today, Leslie Rogers and Tani Thole. I am big fans of them and have learned a lot from them, and I'm so excited to be having this opportunity to share them with all of you here today. So let me just take a moment to say hello to some friends who have joined us. Hello, Miss Lynn. Thank you for the compliment. How are you doing, beautiful? Good to see you, everyone. Hello, Kim Princess. Hello, hello. Thank you for joining us. Hello, Nancy. All my gals are here. Thank you, queens, for joining me. Hello, Rose. Good morning to you. I forgot it's 1 a.m. in the UK, so thank you all for staying up late for us over there too. It could be 2, but we're still in that little time difference there, so it saved us an hour on that one too. So great to see you, everybody, and thank you so much for hearting our video if you're over on Facebook, hitting the thumbs up button over on YouTube, and we love and appreciate shares, follows, tags, subscribes, and all that good stuff. Hello, Vivian. Aloha to you, my friend. Thank you for joining us as well. So I'm so excited that you were all here. Hello, Stacia. You got here early. Thank you, darling. Good to see you, beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us here too. So we are talking about enlightened love and the doorway to enlightened love and how we can walk through that doorway. And so my guests tonight have some beautiful wisdom that they can share on how we can get there. And it's a beautiful path, maybe not an easy path, but a beautiful path indeed, and very well worth the time, the effort, and the energy. So this is a love show, and it wouldn't be complete without love for self and complete love for self. And you hear me speak of this often, and have been doing so for quite a long time too. And now I'm excited to share some experts in the field of self-love and how they are making the world a better place, one person at a time, one class at a time, one workshop at a time, for all of us here to be living better lives and elevating humanity, as we like to say here in Spirit Land. So hello, Jennifer McCormick. Good to see you. Thank you for joining us. Labyrinth Criterion, thank you for joining us as well. I saw Jeffrey was here as well, so thank you for joining us, Jeffrey. So welcome, 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 everybody. Okay, my friends, I'm so sorry, I just got a little tongue-tied there for a second, but let me welcome from the Light Dark Institute, the founders, Tani Thole and Leslie Rogers.
Hello, hello.
Hello, everybody. Welcome,
Such a pleasure.
welcome.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thanks, Jennifer.
We're really
Thank you so much
happy. Yeah. I'm so excited to have you on here. I've known you for a few years now too, and I took your class a couple years ago, which we'll be discussing with everybody here because you've got one coming up here for that everybody could come in and join and take as well too. And it's like I've learned so much from you two, and so I'm just so honored and excited that you agreed to do the show here with me tonight.
Thank you. Thank you so much for hosting us.
Yeah.
It's a total honor to be here. And hello to everybody watching and listening. We are excited to be here with you.
Yeah, we have a very loving community. So it's like you're in a good place. So you're in like, the most loving arms of people that you could find here too. So I'm going to read a little something real quick for everybody, and then we'll go ahead and get started. Does that sound good?
Perfect.
All right. So my friends, we are going to be discussing what it would mean to truly leave nothing out when we stop fighting the jealous, the frustrated, the needy parts of ourselves and start listening to them. Something shifts. Self-love stops being a project and starts being a portal into honesty, connection, and relationships that actually fulfill us. Tani Thole and Leslie Rogers have devoted their lives to one question: what does it actually take to love and be loved fully, honestly, without armor? As co-founders of the Light Dark Institute, they've found the answer almost always runs through the places we least want to look. Their work turns those places into doorways toward deeper intimacy, freer relationships, and a love that doesn't require us to leave any part of ourselves behind. You can find Leslie and Tani at thelightdarkinstitute.com and follow them over on Facebook at the Light Dark Institute. How'd I do?
Great. Thank you. Just one little thing. The website is just lightdarkinstitute.com. Don't put the
we'll take that out. We'll get that fixed. Sorry about that. Light Dark Institute. We'll get that fixed. No problem. And hello to everybody who's joining us as well too. So I know our community, they're familiar with self-love. Most of them are familiar with shadow work too. And they're familiar with archetypes. But you've kind of taken a little bit of a different pathway, or you've connected dots and you've made your own map, shall we say. And so it's like you have what I could say too is what you've helped people to understand is why people are the way they are. Not just the people around us, why they behave the way they do, but why we behave the way we do, and then how we can basically integrate those understandings into leading happier, more fulfilled lives that are more whole, and enjoying those relationships with other people too, without getting caught into what we might call the life is a stage, as Shakespeare would say. You guys like to call the playground. So how did all of this get started for you? Like, so you came together, you're a couple, you're a partnership too, and then you created this beautiful organization together, and it's been growing ever since.
Yeah.
Well, and this work actually came out of us coming together and meeting for the first time.
I feel like we should ask Jennifer. Our coming together story is pretty phenomenal, and it's really, there's a lot to it, and there's kind of like a long version we can tell, but it'll take a chunk of our time, or there's like we can try to do a short compressed mini version. What would you desire?
I'll leave that up to you. Maybe something in between.
Okay.
Just right.
Just right.
Just right. Hi, Brian.
All right. Well, I think for both of us, there was a journey in our lives, kind of in unconscious ways before we met, around the themes of light and dark and how those fit together or don't fit together. By light, by the way, we generally just mean the things that we can see and have approval for and feel safe with. And by dark, we mean the things that are like we can't see or don't have approval for or don't feel safe with, but also includes the taboo, right? So there can be a hotness in the dark as well. And for me personally, I felt like a really strong kind of internal war between my light side and my dark side in my younger years. I was very, I had been trained as an energy healer. I was very in touch with this gentle, soft healer, fairy love kind of light being part of myself, right? Which I imagine a lot of folks on this call can resonate with. And I feel that in this crew. But I didn't quite understand because I had a dark side too, and I was drawn to it. Like I was for for one, I was really drawn to like kinky, erotic stuff from a very young age. I felt a very strong desire to be dominated, and I'm primarily attracted to men, and I felt a very strong desire to be dominated by men. I grew up with a lot of strong female role models. So I was like, where the heck is this coming from? What's wrong with me? Is this like a disease? It was a long time ago. The internet wasn't as amazing as it was. And, I didn't have as creative resources. And I was just like, I was confused about what was going on inside, not sure if it was a good idea. And I also was drawn to other forms of darkness. Like I was drawn into drug addiction. Like I kind of walked in with my eyes open when I was about 18 years old, like, let me get into drugs. And, went down that wormhole. And there was just a lot of places where I was like drawn to the dark, drawn to songs about people dying, or, there was like it's like it kept drawing me. And I was like, how does that fit with this light being, energy healer? Well, these two things don't go together well. And it was a real struggle for me for a long time. And I'll keep this part short, but suffice it to say, I didn't quite know how to explore my dark side well. And I particularly wanted to explore the kinky sexual fantasies. And I wound up getting into a relationship where we explored that in a way that wound up leaving me super traumatized. And I was like, okay, that is my indication that this is bad for me. Like, there's my proof. This is not a good idea. I'm going to swear this off. And I actually really intentionally swore off my dark side. It was like, I am no longer going to do any of that. I am going purely towards the light. I'm going on a healing journey. I am just focusing on my light being self. I'm swearing off the dark. And it led to an amazing period for a few years where I was really expanding in the light and doing a lot of really beautiful healing work. But what I didn't notice at the time was that something really vital inside of me was kind of drying up and dying off. Like I felt like internally I was kind of becoming like a dry, crinkly leaf. And there was a lot of like juiciness that was missing. And I didn't even realize it. I did notice that I completely lost my sex drive. I completely lost my sex drive. And I was like, okay, this is an indication that I meant to go on a vow of celibacy. And so I went on a vow of celibacy and, thought that was just part of it. And everything felt great for a few years. But then there was a night, just a random night, I was out partner dancing and I was dancing with this guy who was just a little more dominant in certain ways than the average lead dancer. And as I was going home that night, I just had the thought, I wonder if he's a dom, like as in the kinky BDSM sense. Like, I wonder if he actually is someone who explores dominating his partners. And just by letting that thought back in, when I had been like pushing all of those thoughts out of my mind for years, just even entertaining that notion in my brain for a minute, it was like the crack in the dam, and all of a sudden the dam broke open and all these kinky taboo fantasies started flowing through me, and I came alive like I couldn't even believe. I was just like, it was like somebody hit the breaker switch and the Christmas tree just lit up, and I was like, oh my God, I'm alive. Like, wow, I'm here. Like, there is energy flowing through my body. There is life force in me that I didn't even realize I had lost. I hadn't noticed when it disappeared over the years, but man, when it came back in one fell swoop, did I notice. And at that moment, I was literally like sitting in my car outside of this music venue. And I was like, whatever this is, it can't be bad for me. I have got to turn towards this. I've got to turn towards this dark side and find a way to do this in a way that's like intentional and well held so that I can find out what's here, because I cannot live without this aliveness. Like, this has got to be important. And so at that point, I decided to really intentionally turn towards it. I started doing a lot of research. I started realizing that the reason that previous relationship had been traumatizing for me was not because kink or darkness or taboo is actually inherently traumatizing. Most of it actually isn't, but it was because I didn't know how to take care of myself, and I didn't know how to speak up for my needs. And I went along with a lot of things that didn't feel good. And then when our relationship ended, it like kind of all came falling down on top of me. And so I realized like, oh, there's these things called safe words. There's ways to do this intentionally. Like, this can actually be really well held. And at that point, I went on this mission. I was like, I'm going to find a partner who's going to be my dominant partner who will dom me 24/7. I wanted someone to do it round the clock with me and really explore this dive into darkness with a partner.
Mm. And I'll just give you a small sense of my history of coming up to that moment. I had had a whole former life and been married and had we went through a divorce, and I had a kind of like an awakening to the possibility of enlightenment, to a deeper spirituality. I always thought of myself as spiritual and following the light really before this, but when I woke up from it, I realized a lot of my pursuits of following the light were really just pursuits of being seen as a good person, and by being seen as a good person, getting loved. It was a devastating thing to wake up to and realize that I had been doing this whole project that was essentially a sham, and realizing that a lot of us are actually doing that and up to that. So I went on a kind of pilgrimage. I got rid of everything I owned and went walking for a year, and found my way into California, where and joined a community, because as I went on this path of awakening enlightenment, the areas where I really still felt a lot of challenge with to escape my old ways of being, and to like how to even engage in new ways, was around sexuality and community and just being human with humans. And so I really set some strong intentions, and I came in and started joining this intentional community. Some would even call it a sex cult, as we were exploring relationships and sexuality and really deep diving in together, and learning about what's really going on beyond what we have learned and thought of. And in that process, I realized that like all these things I've been chipping away at for so long, like it's kind of my old pattern of just trying to get better and better. So maybe one day I'll be good with humans, and then humans will love me. and I had started to realize that the real magic really exists in all those places where I judge myself, and where I judge others, and where I fear what's inside of me. I fear what's in here. I was really on this path of like embracing that arising, which is when I met this one, and she was looking for this 24/7 dominant partner, which I at that point didn't really know what that was. I had explored many things and had a sense of what, at least what that could feel like, but I really didn't know what that was. I was just really drawn to her. So I was like, I don't know what that is, but I hope to be connected to you. I'm just really, really into you. I'm like such a magical, amazing human being. And I also just felt a sense of like, oh, like my fantasy of fantasy. Oh my gosh, I don't even know how it's gonna happen. And it was a unique position for me, because I didn't feel like it was like I had a lot of trust it was going to happen, because it happened like months went by with nothing happening between us. But we finally went on kind of a date. She didn't consider it a date, but and at the end we kind of played with this power dynamics, like dominant submissive. I don't know if anyone here knows what that's like, to do that intentionally, to like really actually take power over another person intentionally. We do it all the time unintentionally. But this is that exploration, and didn't really go over that well. We weren't
Weak sauce.
It was like weak sauce. I was like trying to figure out what she wanted, but what she was wanting was me to do what I wanted. and so we didn't really meet there. And then it was a couple months later, we were at a retreat together, and I saw her out on the dance floor, and I suddenly had this dark lust come up inside of me, like something really scary I had never felt before. Like something that was just like, oh, just pulling at my soul, this aching need. And I really, it really felt like I was being taken over. Is what it felt like to me, like something was like coming through me. And in the past, I would have been like, okay, let's slow it down and not go here, because I do not trust what's coming through. Because when I look out on the dance floor and see her, I see a little fawn that just needs to be eaten. And I'm like, whoa. Yeah, I don't know what that is.
That sounds very Little Red Riding Hood. Big bad wolf.
Totally.
Yes.
For sure.
Yeah. And but because of the work I've been doing of turning towards, even though it's scary, like embracing, knowing that underneath it all, there's something really valuable. And that's actually more in my path to embrace these parts than to try to fix them or get over them or get past them. And so I decided to trust it and dive into it, and led her off the dance floor. And we went into essentially a night of horrors, of desires and experiences.
Such hot horrors. Oh my God.
That never even fathomed. I didn't even know I had. I did these. It was like awakening to all of these different parts of myself that I didn't know were in there. And that night, and immediately us coming together that night going forward, we started doing this work, which was really about, instead of trying to fix it, instead of trying to make it better or get out of it, realize like, no, there is a part of you that loves this suffering, that loves this engagement, loves the safety, that loves the power, that loves the distancing, the all sorts of things. There's pleasure and there's enjoyment and there's all sorts of things in the worst, most scary places. And when you can get inside of that and let that actually be a part of you, then it can actually free us up. But if we're going in to free ourselves up from the pattern, if we're going in to if I was going in that moment to free myself from, okay, I have this really dark part. Okay, how do I go in just enough so I can get out? Then I would never be able to actually see what's really there. I would have held out. And so that this work was really born of our relationship, and we started playing with community and developing the modalities and experiences. Like, how do we have people experience their own parts of themselves that they've denied and rejected, and in ways that are like really meeting and really pleasurable and really exquisite and new possibilities for what's there. And we were just seeing massive transformations in our community, and it was very soon after that we started doing the work. And eventually called it the Light Dark Institute.
And I'll just add, that first night when we came together, when we both fully permissioned ourselves to be in the full darkness, but we also had done so much building of our muscles in the light. It blew my mind when those two fused. Like, he was dominating me and like claiming eternal ownership over my soul through all the timelines and all the lifetimes of our very first night together. And I'm like doing energy healing on him while he's claiming my soul. And like, it was really wild and really amazing. And what it really felt like was like these powerful forces moving through us, these powerful energies of darkness and of the yes to everything that is, not making anything wrong, giving permission to every part of it and loving the dark. Like, these forces overtook us and came through us. And it really felt like right there, that very first night, the light dark work was delivered to us. And then the last 11 years of us running this institute have been a process of learning how to steward it ever more and more carefully, because the dark gods that brought that through see purely in the dark, and that there's ways to deliver that to humans who have trauma and have experiences where like it needs to be held in gentle ways also. So we've really learned over the years how to hold both the raw, intense power of the yes to the dark, and also the gentle, tender human hearts that are like, sometimes that's a lot for us, and sometimes we have other needs and desires. And that's really what our work is all about. Like, how do we actually hold both at once? I know, Jennifer, you've already heard this, but I'll share it for your audience, that we distinguish between what we call light work and dark work in our work. And light work, we define, you're all probably familiar with light work, but the way we define it is the path of healing, progress, and change. It's where we look out at something in ourselves or in the world and we say, you know what, I want to make this better. I want to bring it into the light. I want to heal this. And that's super important, right? And then dark work we define as where we actually turn towards the dark. And it's the path of loving what is exactly as it is, without the need to change it, without the need for it to be any different, and then finding the gifts that are there, that are present right in that spot. And we believe that both are vitally important as humans, because the dark work speaks to that place where like, actually, this is all love. Right? What is happening here? This infinite, glorious mystery of existence. It's all perfect, right? On some level, it's all so perfect. Even the suffering, even the scary, even the harm, it's beautiful. And yet, for human hearts, sometimes they're like deeply overwhelmed by it all and need holding, need care, need tending, need change, need healing. And so our work is really about, how do we dance with both? How do we bring both in so that at any given moment we can be at choice? Are we leaning into the light and trying to change and heal, or are we leaning into the dark and embracing what is? And ultimately, if we can actually bring both together simultaneously, it brings such power and potency and resilience in our ability to meet life and live as beautiful, awakened, embodied humans.
And really healthy relationships.
Totally. Yeah. Oh, and
Well,
speaking
we
of
could use
relationships,
more of that in this world.
absolutely. Yeah.
You think?
Just a little. Whether it's at the personal level or the global level, every level of it, we could use healthier relationships.
Yes, we can. That's why we're having this show.
Totally. Yeah, yeah. And I want to just add one thing, just for clarity on our story. So we stayed in that dynamic with Leslie as the dom and me as the sub, the submissive partner. We stayed in that dynamic for a year and a half, 24/7, and ran that all the way until it was done. And then it kind of just petered out, and suddenly a different dynamic emerged, which was actually me being the dom and him being the sub. And so then we were like, well, that's what's arising, so let's go with that. And we went with that for a while, and that was super powerful and hot and enlivening. And then eventually our relationship has transitioned where it's gone through a million different iterations over the years, but now we just kind of step into whatever is the relevant thing in the given moment. And sometimes we look totally mundane, and sometimes we look really wild and out there. But over the years, as we've explored, and then as we've explored with clients and students, we've gotten to go in and meet all these different aspects of darkness, all these different aspects of relating to power and surrender. And it's just been a really incredible ride. And we've woven all of that through with the light dark work.
And we've gotten to become very strange things together with everyone, with their clients. And
Oh, we don't know anything about being strange over here in spiritual land. No. We we've had many shows on being strange. We talk to dead people.
Right.
And much of our audience here is no stranger to spiritual awakenings and Kundalini awakenings and understanding the importance of integrating darkness and that too. So that's good. So it's not like this is like unheard of too. And it's like I can relate a lot to kind of being that sort of Persephone and sort of the out on the fields picking her flowers and then being forced down to go down into the dark depths and have to kind of move into that space and then kind of come back out the other end and realizing it's all me. And I suppose this is why I've always had this attraction to like dark Gothic romance. You give me a good Frankenstein or a Dracula movie or something like that. That's why people like scary movies or like metal music and things like that. They got to find some kind of place to have an outlet for that too. So but the work you do it's truly phenomenal. It's truly transformational, and you've done something kind of different because you've mapped out the dark types. And this is the class that I took, was how you mapped out the dark types, which is a little different from archetypes. We know archetypes and we know the archetypes have a shadow side, but you kind of like have made your own map about that. But what I loved about that is it helped me to understand not only how the thoughts and the parts in myself, I call it strange. What's that? We're all talking to galactic beings over here, so we embrace the weird here. It helped me to like understand how like my own parts and watch my thoughts and things and how those are working. But that also helped me to have greater understanding of other people and be able to spot what was happening with them and then not get kind of like is hooked into the dynamic of it too, and to realize like you can be here in this reality but interact with it differently, which is conscious versus unconscious, where most of the times, like you said, people are actually loving a lot of the dramas that they're in. They say they hate it, but they're actually loving it on an unconscious level, but they don't know that they're loving it, but that's why they're in it over and over and over again. So but I'll stop there and let you comment. Hi Shannon. Hi, Evelyn.
yeah.
Hi, Jeremiah.
Yeah, well, hello. The dark archetypes that we really developed them to help give it like a map or a guide for what happens when we're going towards parts of ourselves that we've rejected or denied. Like when we go into the dark, like, oh, this painful part that I hate and I hope no one ever sees in me whatsoever, if I could just get rid of it. The dark archetypes are a way of like giving it a name and giving it like, oh, it looks like this, and starting to look at it from different angles than just our own personal judgments on it, our own fears around it. And the darker things like, and much more general than a lot of archetypes, or I don't know, but general, but just like we point at the areas. These are like the archetypes of that area of darkness. So there's things like the violent destroyer, the arrogant disdainer, the spiteful self-pitier, or the dominating control, the needy wretch, everybody's favorite. When you're needy. And these are kind of like really helpful if you're like just when you're going down to like look into the dark and it's just dark and you're just seeing a lot of different swirling unknown, and this can be kind of like shining a flashlight around, being like, oh, over there's my covert manipulator, there, that people pleaser in me, or the one who likes to charm to try to get what I want, or that one that I'm always just trying to hide because I would never want to be seen as that, but I love doing that so much because I do it again and again. Just a way of starting to highlight the different ways that they occur in us, how we judge them from the outside. And we found when we judge parts of ourselves really heavily, like when you look at the archetypes themselves and you go, "Oh, I don't like that one at all." That's a good one for you. Like that one has a lot of juice. The more we play a certain spot, it doesn't mean like you are that and you're all the things that you judge about that, but it does present the uncomfortable truth that your judgment and aversion and push away towards that spot indicate that there's probably a lot of uncharted territory going towards it.
Mhm. Yeah.
And the darkness
Yeah.
system came about for us from, once actually right from the very beginning with our work. When we started doing our work, we started with a 3-day experience where we take one client or one couple into a very deep dive 3-day intensive where we're just working with that one person or that couple the whole time. So it's not a group workshop. We do a huge intake process leading up to it where we really get to know their psyche and the patterns that have shaped them and what their struggles are and what they're wanting to create in their lives. And through that process, we started to see these patterns emerge, right? Doing this with client after client after client, we're like, well, there's certain archetypal pockets that keep coming up that people really struggle with and really reject in themselves. And that was how the Darketype system was born and, refined and tweaked over the years. But it's really a potent way because when we talk about learning to love the dark and learning to love, those areas where we reject ourselves, like, by the way, I just want to name real quick, and then I'll circle back to what I was saying. I love that we're on the love show with you because our big why for all of this is love. And, it might seem funny to people because we're like going in with all the monsters and the demons, like, we're embodying them, bringing them out. But actually for us, it's all about love. We're big love beings over here. And we're really out to create more love in the world. Like, how do we actually make more loving relationships? We think it's super important to start with the self, as you were saying, Jennifer, at the beginning of this session, and from there we can ripple out into creating more love in the world. And for us, it really is like, how are we going to make a world of more love if we don't start with the places that are hardest to love? Or I mean, it's okay to not necessarily start there, but for us and this body of work that was delivered to us that first night together, it really is about bringing love to the unloved spots. And so this Darketype system really helps us to look into, like, okay, we're going to look into the dark, but we don't even necessarily know what's in there. And it can help us to really find what areas we might want to put attention and where we might want to start exploring. And like Leslie was saying, what are the places where I particularly need to focus? And so that's how we came up with this system. And it's just a really potent way to bring self-love to places that we haven't loved before, and to bring understanding and love to the things out in the world that scared us before, and to feel more empowered in our relationships with them.
Yeah,
So
absolutely. Go ahead.
I was just going to say, so often when we reject parts of ourselves, and then we come into relationship, that rejection will manifest in relationship. Like we'll try to get our partner to collaborate with us in rejecting that part. So all of a sudden they're getting mad at us about the thing that we're most ashamed of. And we're like, oh, that's the worst. That's so painful. How did I end up in this terrible relationship? And it doesn't mean like you're at fault for it, but there are ways that we co-create a lot of the patterns that we enter into in relationship, and starting with the darkness within and what's going on in here is a really powerful. We think this is the most potent way to like start to undo some of the like codependent or really gnarly patterns that can come up in relate either being in a long-term relationship or just dating and trying to discover and find love.
Yeah, yeah. We talk a lot about in our community authenticity. That's a big buzzword too. And what you said earlier, Leslie, too, is a lot of times we do things not out of authenticity because that's authentically what we want to do, but because we want people to think we're a good person. And it happens all the time, and it's very tricky. And we may still be a good person, but there is a difference in the energy of doing it for an agenda versus doing it because that just authentically feels right to do in the moment. And that's what feels right for you, if that makes sense. So they're very different energies. And I know I've spoken on this before too. And it's like, you can't get from that one to that one without doing the work. It's not a hop, skip, and a jump. You have to actually do the work. I talk about this all the time. It's just, you got to do the work. You got to do the work. You got to do work. And I wish it was easy. I wish it was quick. I don't think it is, but it does seem to be worth it, in the end. I don't know I think it's probably an ongoing process too. You could speak on that too. But for me, when it was interesting because my friend Suri, who also has a show on the network too, I was talking with her about that because she does archetypal work as well too. And then she led me to the book Existential Kink, which led me to you because she talks about you guys in the book. And then I took your class, and this all happened very divinely in orchestrated way because I was seeing patterns show up for me. And I was like, I can't change any of these people. The only person I could change is me. And I just had the kind of the light bulb moment, like what's going on inside of me that's helping this to happen? Because I would really like to change that part and see then what happens after that too. And so authenticity comes from looking into all of it. And it's like, you can't integrate, you can't heal what you don't love. It's really that simple. And anything that you're running from, I always say what you run from will chase you. That's Carl Jung's short version, but that's my version too. But a lot of us here in the comments, everybody's like really, really appreciating everything that you're saying. Love that this is ultimately about love. How else do you get to enlightened love? Because this was our topic, right? Enlightened love and the doorway is accepting all of it, is loving all of it. And once it's all loved, then it no longer is trying to overpower you or trying to run the bus kind of thing, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just want to, I love that, what Evelyn shared there about around this greater love that opens up, because we spend so much time chasing the love we don't have outside of ourselves is going to one day get us that thing. And that's what all the dark archetypes are actually based on. They're all based on this love, this light energy that we're seeking and trying to get. And if we just try hard enough, if we use our strategy just enough, then we'll finally get it one day. Like if we hook them, if we dominate them, if we show our needs, if we punish them enough, if we lie to them and hide ourselves enough, we'll finally get that love that we're really seeking. And that's what all the archetypes like all swirl around. And when we start to like really look within and fall in love with ourselves, something really dramatic starts to happen. And instead of that love that we've been seeking outside, something starts to happen in here. And by the time it's fully done, this is the tragic thing for the part of us that was seeking so hard outside of ourselves. When we finally fully love ourselves out in here, it just starts happening outside of ourselves, beyond the wildest dreams of that like tiny little bit, that little crumb we were seeking. There's just vast oceans of love, so far beyond in our relationship, or a romantic relationship, or however you do relating, in our community and everywhere. The more we fall in love with ourselves, the more we start to receive and experience how much love is actually coming towards us. And when we're not in love with ourselves, not only can we not see it or feel it, but we also, our own strategies to try to get it will prevent people from being able to see us clearly, to love us for who we really are.
Yeah, I totally understand, especially from an energetic perspective too, because it's like when you really love yourself to a great capacity, like that's a very magnetic energy. It's very big. It's very outwards. And then people are just naturally attracted to that. But when you don't, and you're using, I was always call these the costumes of protection. So you call them the dark types, I call them the costumes of protection, or sometimes I'll call them weapons of protection because people use them pretty, yikes, that hurt too. But
that get love no matter what.
It's a very different energy. It's very push and pull energy too. And that tends to kind of end up repelling things and destructing kind of in the end too. So it seems like it takes us a while to learn this lesson, but hopefully we get there somewhere at some point too. Miss Vivian is asking, she's a psychiatrist over in Hawaii. How do you place limits on actions that could be harmful or dangerous to a partner when you're working with couples?
Yeah.
That's a great
It's a
question.
great question. And there are a couple of different important answers to it. One is the like how we actually create the container that we create, and we can speak to that in a moment. But the thing I want to just speak to first is because this question can come up a lot more generally when we're like, yeah, we're going to give permission to and fall in love with these dark parts. Does that mean they're just getting permission to go out and do harm? And that is actually the opposite of what we're up to and the opposite of what happens. And so much of it has to do with the role of shame, right? When we have shame about parts of ourselves, and shame can come up in a lot of different ways. It can come up because we were told you're bad for being that kind of person, or it can come up because, like, for example, say you're a child who grew up with a parent who was abusive, and there may be some part inside that's like, I'm never going to be like them. That's bad. I'm going to swear that off. Well, then that part that is the abusive, angry, like we have one of our archetypes is called the violent destroyer. Like that violent destroyer is going to get sworn off internally. And there can be a tremendous amount of shame around any place where that anger starts to come up. And then it's like, okay, I'm like never going to hit my partner because I'm like, that would make me a bad person. But shame acts like blinders, right? Like you ever see a horse with blinders on? It's like, it really limits the amount that we can see. It's like, I'm just going forward. I'm going forward on this place where I'm not going to do bad things and I'm not going to be a bad person. And then all of this like swirling essence of what else is in us, we literally can't even look at it. And so there's actually more room there for it to come out and hijack and take the driver's seat without us being in charge, because it's like we don't allow ourselves to look at it. We don't allow ourselves to familiarize with it. And then when it comes out, like a lot of us have probably had an experience where we're like, we're light beings, we're good people. And then all of a sudden we're like raging at someone, or maybe it's just in our head.
Who was that just came?
Someone's raging at us. How did this happen? Yeah.
That wasn't me. I didn't mean it.
We're not taking responsibility for the ways we were like needling them or whatever. But there's a lot of non-consensual harm that actually happens as a direct result of shaming these parts, locking them away, and then not being able to actually be in consensual, intentional relationship with them, such that when they come out and grab the wheel, we're totally not in control anymore. And so when we actually start to learn to, and in our work, of course, we put a lot of attention on how to do these things, how to bring them out in consensual and intentional ways. Jennifer will probably remember from our Darketypes course, our online course, we have a whole section in each chapter of the workbook as we go through each Darketype about how to engage that one consensually and intentionally. And it's super important to like learn some real skills there. But there's also something just inherent that happens when we start to learn to love these parts of ourselves and actually bring love to those places where there's shame. Then we can actually be the one in the driver's seat, even when they come online. And so then that part comes and it grabs the wheel. And instead of being like, oh my God, I've got to jump in the back seat and pretend this isn't happening. We're like, oh, I'm here with this. I know how to navigate and dance with this part of me that's raging right now. And I know how to do it in a way that will keep things consensual and connected rather than just a rupture or causing harm. So that's one part of it. Do you want to speak to container creation?
Yeah, and we utilize a lot of the things that come out of BDSM or kink, and that's like BDSM is like a way of exploring kind of dark erotic fantasies in safe ways. And so it already, a lot has been learned in that community about how to create safety for the expression of dark parts and how to keep it consensual. And one of the core ways that the approach that is with safe words. And that's something that we've really, really brought into use. And safe words are like words that indicate a need. I need this to slow down. I need to stop, or some other kind of need. And the reason we use like coded safe words like green, yellow, red, for example, are oftentimes what's used for safe words.
Like a stoplight
system. Is to communicate on behalf of parts that sometimes don't even know. They don't even have a voice. We don't even know what their needs are. We're encountering them for the first time as we go into these spots. And we're like, I don't even know what the need is. That's oftentimes the issue. But if we can just catch in that moment that there is a need, and hear ourselves speak up for it, we're starting to like reparent ourselves. We're starting to have a new experience where there's someone now current in this moment who can speak up on behalf of these parts, and that weren't allowed to, didn't have anyone to speak up for them, or didn't have the power to change things and make them different for the way they are. And so a lot of the work of going into shadow and exploring darkness, we utilize safe words and a number of other things: negotiations, exploring desires. What are those things? Intentions for where we want to actually be on the other side of this. So a whole container. There's a lot we can talk about with that, but I just want to name like safe words, and especially labyrinthine criterion. You're bringing up questions of like needs, like, you know, like we cause so much harm when we're not aware of our own needs, of what's going on. We're like, oh, I really need that. Like oftentimes abusive relationships can be actually founded in what's seen as love. It's like, you're not the person I fell in love with. Stop that. I can't handle losing what I want. I can't handle losing the thing I'm most devoted to. I'll actually get violent or raging or angry if you become someone else than what I have held you as.
And my projection of you.
As a projection. Now, it's false. It's an illusion, right? It's not true, because that person, your partner or whoever it is far beyond what you projected, what you thought you were seeing. There's so much more, and they change, and that's terrifying for those parts of us. It's so terrifying to watch the people we love change, because it's like the questions of like, will we still love each other? Will I still be lovable? All of those things start to come up, and we start to break those open. And so these strategies come out to try to get the needs met. But if we can play with those strategies, if we can see them not as a problem, but as actually just functions of play for getting our needs met, not a problem, then even the violent destroyer, which is one of the dark archetypes, can actually come into and actually be a part of play, and be a part of actually creating more connection, and be a part of actually helping us see what our own internal needs are. Because the energy of rage is an indication that we've actually gone past one of our boundaries. In our container, it's actually the experience of we've gone past a safe word. And if we can take responsibility, we can slow down and take responsibility for the safe word we went past, the need we went past, and we can go back to that and own it and start to reparent ourselves. Then those harmful behaviors that are seeking the needs, seeking the love, but never getting it, we can actually start to plug them into this current moment where there is love for them, and where what they were reaching for and how they reach is actually useful in a way of loving us into being.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, just last night I was like holding a team meeting. How we all doing in there? You know, but that takes a little bit of a practice to learn, because I think most of the time we are like unconsciously thinking thoughts and just becoming all these different sort of facets ourselves. Sorry, I'm echoing. And then, but learning to be actually conscious of it, that's a whole nother tool. Are you guys hearing my echo, or is it only me? Yeah, okay, it's only me. Okay. And so, but what I wanted to ask you too is, what would we do in a dynamic? Because if, say, somebody, two people are in a relationship, but somebody has done a really good job at hiding their darkness, and now you've gone into the relationship, you're committed, maybe you're married or something, and then all of a sudden you maybe saw some red flags along the way and you kind of ignored them because you wanted to get your needs met. But then all of a sudden the Jekyll and Hyde thing kind of turns on, and like, what do you do? Because that person was really good at hiding, and so now they have changed. Then kind of, what do you do?
Yeah, well, it's an opportunity to look at all those places where there was, as you described it, a sacrifice of your own needs and desires to get what you want, and to go back to those parts of self and identify those moments and come into a new relationship, like see those in a new way. And as those get loved into being, that can oftentimes help with the current relationship, although it may be that the current relationship was formed entirely on false premises. And so then needs to break down until the real essence of each of us can actually meet and see where we are, how we go forward. And if, some of us we were committed to our patterns because we're afraid of annihilate. We're afraid we'll be destroyed if we go towards it. And so the best way we can love ourselves is by not going in. And and I'm noticing, Michelle, I just want to speak to Your
I
experience.
want to speak to that too,
Go
but
ahead.
real quick, I just want to add one thing about your last question, Jennifer, which is, this is where I think also the ability to have the light work muscles and the dark work muscles both developed is really important, because there are times where, like, maybe, I mean, we've had so much of this, right? Where, like, your partner is like, maybe he's like grumpy at me, and I could take that really personally, and I could get really offended and feel really hurt. Or I could be like, oh, you're so grumpy, huh? Like, oh, poor Mr. Grumpy Bump. And we get to play or just like be with it. And it's like no big deal, right? And there's
Right.
been so many ways where we've learned to like not be triggered by the other person in their crap, and and ourselves in our crap. But there are also places where light work is important, right? And there are places where like real harm is being done in a relationship, or maybe that relationship just isn't the right relationship. And then being able to hold our inner little ones. Like, actually, we do a lot of this work in our work, because the needy wretch, which is one of our archetypes, is actually like the most important archetype. It's the one that drives all of the other ones, and it speaks to that inner child. It speaks to the one that just wants love and approval so badly, and wants connection so badly, and it's so tender. It's such a tender, gentle part of us. And when we kind of like ramrod over the top of that one's needs, and we try to put ourselves in situations or tolerate things that really don't work for us, or we pretend it's okay, or we, whatever it is, there's a really deep, important part of us that we're skipping over. And so sometimes the thing to do is stop and just be like, oh, wow, I am hurting right now. Ow. And like hold that tender, young inner part and bring love to it to the best of our ability. And for some of us, it's not easy, right? Because maybe that little one actually didn't get a lot of love when we were little. Or even if it did, maybe we got messages and conditioning from society that have us think we're wrong, or think that part of us is wrong. So it's not always easy to learn to hold love for that part. But as much as we can in those moments where shit's hitting the fan, where there's, intensity, darkness coming towards us, to stop and be like, oh, right, this part of me is scared. And sometimes it even helps, like one of the practices that we teach in our work, and that has really been a big support for me in my life, is to actually envision that tender young part of myself outside of me. Because maybe if I see it inside of myself, there's like, the stories about self-judgments can get in the way of embracing it. But if you see it as like a little child outside of you, and you see yourself at 3 or 7 or whatever age it was that you were so scared, that is now mirroring what's playing out in your relationship, or in that moment, or with your boss, or wherever it is, and you can see that scared child, and just feel how scared they are, but also how sweet they are, and literally just like scoop them up and hold them to you and be like, I'm so sorry. This is so scary. I see you and I've got you. And you can just love on them. Like, from that place, it just is like water to our souls, water to our hearts, right? But also it can help us make different decisions, right? It can help us be like, oh, this part of me is getting really impacted in this relationship in a way that isn't working for me, and I'm going to maybe choose to make a different decision around this relationship, or around my work environment, or whatever it is. The more that we can hold that part, the more we can begin to get right with ourselves, find love, and also make choices that are healthy and important for us.
Yeah.
I know. Back to Michelle.
I see a lot of, we'll get to Michelle's in just a second, but I see a lot of, like, in the name of unconditional love, self-abandonment in the name of unconditional love. And it's like, when do we unconditionally love ourselves first? We forgot to unconditionally love ourselves, and we try to unconditionally love the other person, and it never ends up working. It just the whole thing collapses too. So, but that's a good segue into Michelle, who's having a hard time with that too. So I'll let you guys go ahead. And so she's saying she wants to love herself more, but she doesn't. She feels things she feels guilty about, that she could have done differently, like being a better mother. Yeah, every mother wishes they could have done better. There's not one mother who doesn't feel guilty yet. Look into the mirror and can't even look at myself without having anger. Yeah, thank you for sharing, Michelle.
Well, and I'm going to speak to generalities, Michelle, so I hope some of this maybe lands approximately for you, because there's a lot that could be said about those moments. But first of all, I just want to say I really understand looking in the mirror and being angry at self. I have many times raged at myself in the mirror for failures, regrets, ways I've disappointed and let down my own son, and all sorts of different things that arise around it. So first of all, I have some understanding of that for myself around that, and I don't know what that's like for you. But one of the things I just want to name and use your beautiful share of vulnerability for everyone here who has parts to get angry at ourselves, is that anger is love. And even though it feels berating, it's like a part that's there to try to love. It's like, oh, you could have been better. You should have been better. Why? And the guilt and regret is love, trying to love myself into being. It's like, oh, wished I'd done it better. I wished I could have done it. I wish I could over and over again. And when we're inside of it, it doesn't feel like, it can feel like loss of love. It can feel like deep regret or deep self-punishment and deep paration. But when we can just see it for a little bit, just see if we can catch a glimpse of the one who's raging at myself for failing as a parent, for example, I can be like, oh wow, you care so much about my child, about me, about my like you care so much. You have no idea what to do about it, but you care so much. And you're trying to get me to see that this matters. And I get it. I see it. It's that a lot of these angry parts are a little bit older parts that are trying to get our power back. When we were young, the safe words, the need was bypassed. And then an older part comes in and says, like, no, we're never going to do that again, or that's never going to happen to us again. Wah! And there's just so much love in it. And so if there's any way, for all of us who are like looking in the mirror and having those moments of self-hatred or rage itself or deep regret, to just get a little glimpse at how those parts are loving us from the outside. And this doesn't mean the way they're loving us is our ideal way of being loved, but it's their best shot at loving us from inside. And as we acknowledge and see them and recognize what they're doing for what they're trying to say, what they're trying to bring, and hold the bigger picture of ourselves. And that's the really important part, because there are also ways, I'm sure you were in, like, there are ways that are like you, because you care, because you're regretting as a parent. I'm sure there are ways you were an amazing parent. And there were things that were so important, essential, that you showed up for your child. And this part right now is just in touch with the pain. When you can hold that with it and see the love that it's coming up with, that can be so helpful. And that's where we find, like, embodying it, like setting a timer, for example, and just giving it life to just spill out fully and fully express, and then be done when the timer ends, can sometimes help move the energy too. So I just want to like throw that little offering out too, and it helps move the energy, and also just like takes like ways we can stop being totally identified with it. When I say, like, I hate myself, I'm so angry at myself, I can fully embody and see it's like, oh, this part's so angry because this part cares so much. And I see you. Wow, I see that. Thank you so much for caring for me. Wow. But now it's not me, it's just part of me.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I just want to add one piece, because that's sort of speaking to the dark work approach, right? The embracing what's here and finding the yes in the dark. And also then the light work approach. I'm a mother. We have an 18-year-old son. He's mine from a previous relationship, but Leslie's been co-parenting him for the last 11 years. And I used to beat myself up so hard about not being a good enough mom to him. And I think what's so important is to start appreciating yourself, even if it's in little tiny ways. I'm a big lover of gratitude and the role of gratitude. Like every morning when I wake up, the very first thing I do is think of 3 things I'm grateful for. And it's like what you put your attention on grows, right? And so the more you start to see things through appreciation and gratitude, the more that's going to ripple out to all areas of your life. And so, for anyone who's beating themselves up about your parenting or about anything in your life, what would it be like to find some time, maybe it's right when you wake up every morning or right before you go to bed every night, where you just find 3 appreciations for yourself, 3 things that you're like, yeah, I'm doing this well. And when it comes to parenting, when it comes to parenting, one thing I just want to mention is, I used to really look at my son, and anywhere where he had issues or challenges or things about him that weren't the most amazing, I would take responsibility for how I had created those in him. but I did not look at all the things that were amazing about him and take responsibility for those. Those were just natural to who he was, right? Like all the awesome things about him, I was like, that's just him. And all the things that were like not perfect about him, that was my fault. And then I finally one day was like, wait a second, that standard doesn't make sense. Either I don't take responsibility for any of it, including the problems, or I don't, or I take responsibility for all of it, including the awesomeness. And like, look at how amazing this kid is. So I think it's just so important to actually appreciate and honor yourself for the things that you are doing well and that you are doing right. And then to play with the dark parts and learn how to actually love and embrace those too. And that's what we do in our work, whether you do it with us or elsewhere. It's so important to learn to love those shadows.
Yeah, absolutely. And I was going to say, by the way, everybody, we're going to be putting up, Leslie and Tani do have a class actually starting next week, and they have a special offering for all of you who are watching too. So stay tuned for that too. We'll be putting that up for you, and I'll let you guys talk about that a little bit more. But one thought that I had is it's just so tricky is that when we have those parts come up that are being like what we would call negative, it's like, I know in what I've seen around is a lot, when we start to have awareness of what we've been doing, like say allowing people to cross the boundaries, then we almost get like mad at the part of them that did that. And so it's like, you have to like love the part you have to love all the parts, including the one that was getting mad, or the one that was letting a boundary cross, or the one that's even having negative thoughts and stuff like that. Because anything that you reject or try to push away will just keep coming back and chasing you. You can't get rid of yourself. Too. So it gets very tricky of learning like, okay, I love you too. Okay, I love you too. Okay, I love you too. Okay, I love you too.
Right. One of the reasons when we talk to people about like why explore the darkness, why get into this, it's like, well, because it exists, and like it or not, it's here. So we might as well learn how to navigate it and learn how to love it, right? So I love what you're saying there.
I wonder, this is a good question, because we were talking about enlightened love, and enlightened we could maybe say is another word for being in the wholeness. And what would the world be like, since everybody's looking around thinking it's a shit show right now? This is a really good time to ask, what would the world be like if more of people were in their wholeness and were playing a different game, and then thus were raising children differently, and with, to be more secure and more trusting. And then some of these costumes would not have such strong holds on us individually, but collectively as well, a collective consciousness too. And it's like, can we just imagine a reality where the island of people who are behaving consciously gets bigger and bigger and bigger, and this other one gets a little smaller and smaller and smaller, and then do we reach a tipping point to where we're like, oh, the world doesn't look like a shit show anymore? Just saying.
Totally. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, and it's an interesting dance as we like shift the shit show in here, like a lot of the things that we see as like we reject in here, it creates the world even extra dark and dangerous. But we can see the underlying needs even in war, even in some of the things that are going on, and see the underlying needs that they're reaching for. Doesn't change the impact, is not something that I would ever choose for anyone. But I can see the desire I have to protect what I love and make things right and big and like make the world into what matters to me, and like having that power come through around it. We can at least acknowledge the energies and their attempts at like meeting our needs and the way that there is love in it. And when we can start to see that, it makes the shit show more of a show that's going on that we're part of, that we can engage. It's not over there. It's like the leaders are right here. The power out there is the power in here. And we can meet moments, in new ways. Yeah.
The world doesn't look as scary when you have you. Hey Arnie, good to see you, love. It doesn't look quite as scary when you at least have you in there too. And I don't know, I've always been a really, loving person, but the more that I've managed to find me and put the parts together, I feel my capacity of love has grown even more. It has more depth to it than it did before. and you can't put a price on that too. And I often say, like, we can't. We have more power to change ourselves than we do this, the world around us too. And it's like we can go out there doing all of this. It's like, what if you don't take a look at inside? Then it's just not going to be as effective too. But let's talk about, because I see we're kind of getting close to time here. Let's talk about your course that you've got coming up. And I've taken it, and so I highly recommend it to anybody who's watching here. If you're wanting to learn more about yourselves, if you how to understand your relationships, to have better relationship with yourselves and with other people, however that looks like to you, it's well worth the time, the effort, and the cost of it too. But let me hand it over to you guys to talk about what we've got coming up starting next week, right?
Yeah, it starts like actually exactly a week from today. So it's our 9-week online course. It's called Playing with Darketypes. So these darketypes that we've already been talking about, we get a chance to really deep dive with our 10 core darketypes. The list of real darketypes is actually infinite. Like anything that you think of that you are like, that's bad, that counts as a darketype. But we've discovered over the years that there are 10 core ones that really speak to like the most essential ways that darkness shows up in people. And so we get to really deep dive with those over the course of these 9 weeks. And because we have all this time together, we get to really put a lot of attention on each one or each pair, because some of them work in pairs together. Like, the dominant controller and the covert manipulator, for example, they're both about control, but one is doing it in a really overt, obvious way, and one is doing it in a more hidden, subtle way. So there's pairs like that. So we have a lot of time each week we focus on one darketype or one pair of darketypes, and we have a chance to go really deep with it. We have a 200-page workbook. People have been asking us for years to write a book about this work, and this is really where it lives, is through this online course. And so we send that out in advance, and people have a chance to really get into understanding the darketype. And then we come together for a live online class for 2.5 hours on Mondays. It's 4 to 6:30 p.m. Pacific time on Mondays for 9 weeks. And we come together and we do a lot of activities. We do a lot of embodiment. We do a lot of playing these things out, laughing about them with each other, and also getting deep into like the underworld of them and understanding them, and a lot of breakout rooms, a lot of dynamic activities. We've really put a lot of attention on having it be a dynamic, exciting, fun course, despite the fact that we're sitting on Zoom. And and it's, really what we're up to in this course is learning to understand each darketype. We really put a lot of attention on learning to understand what are the forces that drive them. What is the core yearning of each archetype that it's like, I would do anything to create this? And what is the core fear of each archetype that it would do anything to avoid? And how that yearning and that fear combine to have it play out in these weird, crazy, distorted ways. But once we understand those forces that are driving them, man, our relationship with them really starts to shift. It really starts to feel different. It's like the thing arises and we actually are like, oh, I know what's happening here. I'm like raging, or I'm like feeling like I want to take something, or I'm lying. I know what's happening here. I know why this is happening. And we put a lot of attention on learning how to work with them in intentional and consensual ways, and also how to work with other people's darketypes when they're coming at us. So it's just a really powerful experience over 9 weeks. And we get to, we find that this work really helps people learn to bring self-acceptance and self-love and self-approval to places they've never been able to access before. There's something about really turning towards these places with a yes to them and a curiosity to learn from them, not to try to change them, but to really embrace what's here, that shifts people's lives, shifts people's relationship, and really first and foremost brings in a level of self-acceptance that nothing else has been able to touch and reach. So it's a really profound journey. Jennifer obviously has done it, and we'd be honored if any of you want to join us. We're actually offering, I see the discount code is there. Just for this audience, we're offering a $100 discount. The course is quite affordable. It's $595, so it's $495 with your discount. We do actually also have scholarships. There's a place to apply for those if even the $495 is totally out of range for you. And you'll want to use that code within the next few days if you want to join us. But we would be super
cool.
honored.
You made it the Love Show.
Yeah, just for your audience. Yeah.
Miss Rose approves. Thank you. So yeah, everybody, I'd highly recommend it if you've got these Mondays free, if you make the time for it too, you'll definitely absolutely get a lot out of it. This is their website. So you'll go to lightdarkinstitute.com and you'll find this on the top towards the left-hand side too. So you want to sign up for that and then enter in the code, the Love Show, all in caps, to save $100. That's a really good savings. Thank you for offering that. It was very generous.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So we'd be honored to have any of you with us on this journey. It's a rich one. And we wouldn't know Jennifer without it. So it's such a blessing.
It's funny how it all aligns, isn't it? So, well, I like to give back to people who have given to me and helped me so much too. And I do want to say before we end the show, your work is expanded because you do a lot of traveling and you're working in a lot of other little containers of groups. Would you mind speaking a little bit about that really quick? Of like, because you're doing a lot of, it's very expansive.
Yeah, we do a lot of live workshops, in-person workshops too. Most of them are based in the Bay Area or Boulder, Colorado. Although we occasionally by request do them elsewhere as well. And our live workshops also go into the archetypes, but they don't go to the same depth as the online course. The online course is where you're really getting the chance to like get in the nitty gritty of like deep inside the psyche of each one and how it works and how to work with it. In our live classes, we always incorporate archetypes too, and get a chance to embody them and play them out and feel them and work with them. But then in the live classes, in our live workshops, we also get into more of the power dynamics. So some of them, like we have a 2 different workshop series. One is called Foundations, and that's really welcome for anybody, no matter where you're at in your personal growth journey and your spiritual journey. And then there's another track called the Advanced Dark Play series. And those are really for people who've already done a lot of work in shadow work and sexuality and are facilitators or space holders in their own lives and are seeking a kind of like harder, further, faster way to dive into this material. So they're both pathways that people can come in. And in both of them, we do get into power play and exploring elements of BDSM and what is it like to dominate and what is it like to surrender. But in the Advanced Dark Play series, we go like hard and fast into that territory. In the series and the level 1 of the Foundation series, we just touch into it lightly, but we're really focused all the way through on learning consent. How do we actually bring out those parts of us that want to take power in a way that stays in connection with the person we're taking power over and holds them and holds their nervous system? And how do we surrender and be held by someone? And then what if we have needs arise, and how do we speak our needs, and how do we honor our yes and no, even in those places where we're invited into surrender? So we put the Foundation series, we do that actually in really powerful ways, but a little more with the training wheels on. It's like the course that I needed back when I had that original relationship where I got traumatized. Oh my God, if I had taken this course, it would have gone really differently. So we're in both courses, we really build in the training wheels of how to do that. But in the Advanced Dark Play, we go pretty far fast. Whereas in the Foundations, it's like we go far fast in the upper levels of that series. But in the Foundations level 1, which is kind of the main entry point, it's a gentle yet very potent way to get into the darkness.
And I'll just say, even though we're using the BDSM containers we've described, it's not about that, especially the Foundations course. It's not, it's about actually like what is our own agency and standing in our power, and what is our own surrender and surrendering into it. And it can serve that world, but also any world that we're in, but we have to deal with power and ways that we're conditioned to not surrender or not take power or not see ourselves standing in our
we live in a world of people trying to overpower or trying to manipulate power all the time. I mean, that's how everybody's doing it already. They just are doing it in an unconscious thinking way. It's really crazy. But what I also want to say is you guys are also like, you speak for a lot of different types of groups as well too, that may not be like quite in the same like community or genre, but then they ask you to come in and speak for them because they're trying to say improve their company and how they relate to people and things. Am I correct with that too? Because you get invited to kind of like work in those different areas. Am I correct?
We do some of that, yeah. And we have another organization, which is more in its fledgling stages, called Earth Shadow, which is really about combining the love of the earth and how we want to be of service and contribute to the world in this moment on this planet, combining that with sort of all the things we've been talking about tonight, but how we do it in a more earth-based place, bringing in more ritual and also looking at organizations and movements, and what are the shadows that often tear apart people who are like trying to make change for good in the world and yet eating themselves from the inside in these organizations. And so that's a place where we bring a lot of that through as well.
Yeah, you can find a lot of shadow in places that are trying to do good too. So
Absolutely.
it's like, yeah, that's a whole nother ball of wax. We'll save that for another show, but but I just wanted to touch a little lightly on it too. So um, thank you so much. Really quick, everybody. Next week on the Love Show, we've got Danny Santos. He's an astrologer coming in and a musician as well. Forgive me for the echo. And so he will be my guest on the Love Show next week. This Friday, Brian Lahr, who's been watching here along with us as well, is going to be my guest this Friday on Embracing Infinity. And we're going to be talking about telekinesis. So that'll be super magical and fun as well, too. And everybody, once again, if you would like to sign up for the Foundation Dark Types class, go to the website, type in the Love Show, all in caps. You get $100 off, and you need to do that within the next couple of days. To receive that too, but highly recommended by yours truly, Jennifer Rose. And so hopefully you guys find your way in there, and you won't regret it too, because it was very helpful for me as well too. So any final words, Leslie and Tani, that you'd like to leave us with?
It's been such a pleasure being here with you all and feeling the love of this community, and just how much is just pouring forth from the hearts here. And
yeah. And I want to just actually, if I can we take one moment just to do a little prayer together? I want to invite everyone to close your eyes, and anything that you felt stirred here tonight, of any spot of bringing love to the dark, that first, to let that, even just the idea of it, let it like trickle down a little bit into your own heart, into your soul, welcoming the love into the dark places, welcoming that even if you don't know fully how to access it right now, welcoming that the possibility of loving yourself in those hard to love places, that is accessible, that it is for you, that it is your birthright to know how to love these places. And just take a moment to let that, to welcome in that possibility. And then let's take a moment to turn our hands out and send the love out to the darkness in the world. Let it ripple out from us to everywhere where there is shadow, where there is pain, where there is strife. And with a prayer, maybe we send a prayer out for love to find its way even to those darkest, hardest places in the world. Let's take a deep breath together. And with that, we'll wrap up our portion, and just want to say thank you all so much. Thank you for exploring with us, and may you find love for the dark in yourself and in the world. Whether it's with us or anywhere else, we wish you so many blessings on that journey.
At the Love Show.
Yeah. And thank you, Jennifer, for all the beautiful, important work that you're doing in the world, and all of you beautiful beings on this show, watching this show. We know you all are up to amazing things, or potentially still finding your path in life, but we know you all have so many gifts to offer, and we are grateful that you're here.
Yeah. Thank you so much. Beautiful evening, Sherry. Thank you to all of our friends who are here watching and have stayed with us the whole time too. Much appreciate to all of you too. And again, it is a truly very loving community. So I'm very blessed to be able to kind of bring you guys together in this way too. It makes me really very happy and grateful. And I really felt that moment when we did that little prayer. It was beautiful, beautiful energy that we all created too. So thank you. All right, my friends, have a beautiful night. Sleep with the angels. Live well, love you well. Live your best life and make it sexy. I will see you next week on The Love Show, this Friday coming on Embracing Infinity on my sister show, and you'll Sleep with the Angels. And thank you again for being you and coming here today. So good night, everybody. Thank you. And I'll see you guys after the credits. Bye, everyone.